The sky tore open with a deafening roar as alien warships descended, casting shadows over the devastated city. Their weapons, gleaming arcs of energy, sliced through steel and concrete like paper, vaporizing everything in their path. Everything, except the humans. Commander Yolrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, eyes narrowing as he watched the battlefield below. His troops fired relentlessly, their beams of destruction weaving a grid of annihilation. Buildings crumbled, vehicles melted, but the humans walked untouched. "They're still standing," Yolrax whispered, his voice laced with disbelief. His claws gripped the control panel, his scales shimmering with unease. He leaned closer to the display, eyes locked on a small group of humans standing defiantly in the open. Not a single blast touched them. It was as if an invisible barrier surrounded their fragile forms. "Intensify the firepower," he barked, fury replacing confusion. "No organism can withstand our technology." The gunners obeyed, amplifying the energy output to maximum. The ground shook as the onslaught intensified, the air vibrating with lethal force. Yet, the humans didn't even flinch. The beams passed through them as though they were mere illusions. "What are they?" one of his lieutenants muttered, stepping back in fear. Yolrax felt a chill run down his spine, his confidence crumbling. This was impossible. Their species had conquered countless worlds, no defense had ever withstood their might. And yet, these beings stood unharmed, eyes burning with defiance. He watched as one of the humans, a man with unyielding eyes, stepped forward, his face calm, fearless. The energy blasts continued to pass through him, harmlessly dissipating into the air. Yolrax's mind raced. This wasn't just resistance, it was immunity. The alien commander's jaw tightened. "Prepare the capture units," he ordered, his voice low and cold. "I want one of them alive." If he couldn't destroy them, he would uncover their secret. Whatever force protected them, he would break it. But as he watched the humans standing amidst the storm of destruction, a shiver of dread crept into his heart. What if their power wasn't just a shield? What if it was something more, something that could fight back? Yolrax's eyes narrowed, his resolve hardening. He would find out. No matter the cost. Commander Yolrax paced back and forth in his command chamber, his tail flicking with agitation. The holographic display before him replayed the battlefield footage, each frame more baffling than the last. The humans stood untouched, surrounded by devastation, their bodies immune to the most advanced weaponry in the galaxy. "How can this be?" he growled, slamming his fist onto the control panel. "No species can resist our annihilation beams." His second-in-command, Officer Vectal, hesitated before speaking, his voice laced with uncertainty. "Commander, our scientists have analyzed the footage multiple times. The energy signatures indicate that the beams pass through them, as if they don't exist on our dimensional plane." Yolrax's eyes widened. "Dimensional displacement? Are you saying they're phasing between realities?" Vectal shook his head. "No, Commander. It's not that simple. They're present, visibly, physically, but the energy doesn't interact with them. It's as if they're out of sync with our universe's laws of physics." The commander's scales shimmered with unease. He had encountered countless alien species, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. But this defied all logic. The humans weren't just resistant, they were untouchable. "What about biological scans?" Yolrax demanded. "Any anomalies?" Vectal hesitated again. "That's the strangest part, sir. Their biology is ordinary. Heart rate, brain activity, cellular structure, all consistent with known human physiology. They are, by every measure, normal." "Normal?" Yolrax hissed, his tail lashing. "Nothing about this is normal. How can creatures so fragile, so primitive, defy the greatest weapons in the galaxy?" He turned to face the viewing window, his gaze fixed on the distant Earth, its blue surface deceptively serene. He had come here expecting an easy conquest, a quick victory to expand their empire. Yet, he was confronted with an enigma that defied all logic. "Commander," Vectal interrupted, his voice trembling, "one of the humans." It looked directly at the drone camera. It saw us. Yulrax's head snapped around. "Impossible. Our drones are invisible to all known visual spectrums." "That's what I thought," Vectal whispered, his skin paling. "But it looked right at us. It even smiled." A chill ran through the room, the air growing heavy with unease. Yulrax clenched his fists, his confidence wavering. What kind of beings were these? "Prepare the capture units," he ordered, his voice firm despite the fear gnawing at his core. "If we can't destroy them, we'll dissect them. I want to know what makes them untouchable." Vectal bowed. "Yes, Commander. But, there's one more thing." "What?" Yulrax snapped. "The humans, they're moving toward the city. Toward our forces." Yulrax's eyes widened. "They're advancing?" "Yes. Unarmed. Unprotected. They're walking straight into our line of fire." The commander's heart raced. No species would march toward certain death without a weapon, without armor. Unless, they knew they couldn't be harmed. "What do they want?" Yulrax whispered, his voice tinged with dread. "Why aren't they afraid?" He turned to the window, watching as the humans approached, their faces calm, fearless. And then, as if sensing his gaze, the man with unyielding eyes looked up, his stare piercing through the distance, locking onto Yulrax's own. The commander's blood ran cold. For the first time in his life, he felt the icy grip of fear. What kind of creatures were immune to fear, and to death itself? The air was heavy with anticipation as the small group of humans walked calmly toward the alien city. Their faces were serene, their movements deliberate. At the front was Captain Daniel Hayes, his gaze fixed on the massive fortress looming ahead. The sky above was darkened by alien ships, their weapons trained on him and his team. Yet, he walked without hesitation, his shoulders squared, his heart steady. Behind him, his squad followed, their expressions equally composed. No words were exchanged, no orders needed. They all understood the mission: confront the enemy and end the invasion. Not with weapons, but with a power far more potent. As they neared the city's perimeter, an energy field crackled to life, glowing ominously with alien technology. The shimmering barrier was designed to disintegrate any intruder. Hayes took a deep breath and stepped forward, his body passing through the energy wall without resistance. The alien guards stood frozen, their weapons raised but useless. Their eyes widened in disbelief as the humans crossed the barrier unscathed. One guard stammered into his communicator, they passed through the shield. They're untouchable." Inside the command center, Commander Yulrax's face twisted with confusion and fear. "Impossible. That field could vaporize steel." "How are they?" His voice trailed off as he watched the humans approach. "They're coming, sir," Vectal whispered, his scales trembling. "Directly to the command center." Yulrax's chest tightened. He watched as the humans marched steadily forward, their faces calm, almost compassionate. There was no anger in their eyes, no malice. Only purpose. Inside the fortress, Hayes and his team navigated the maze-like corridors with ease. They moved as if they knew the place, their footsteps confident. One of his team members, Elena, whispered, "They're watching us. Every step." Hayes nodded. "Let them. They need to see this." Ahead of them, a squad of alien soldiers blocked the passage, their weapons aimed and ready. "Halt," one of them barked, his voice shaking. You cannot pass." Hayes met the alien's gaze, his eyes unwavering. You can't harm us. You know that. The alien hesitated, his grip on his weapon faltering. What are you? Hayes took another step forward. Humans. The soldier's weapon fired reflexively, the energy beam blazing toward Hayes. But just as before, the beam passed through him harmlessly, striking the wall behind. Not a hair on his head was touched. The alien dropped his weapon, his legs buckling. Impossible, you're gods. Hayes's face softened. No. Not gods. Just people who've learned the truth. He moved past the stunned soldiers, his team following close behind. The aliens made no move to stop them, their eyes wide with terror and awe. They reached the doors to the command chamber, massive and imposing. Hayes placed his hand on the cold metal, feeling the vibrations from within. He closed his eyes, his mind reaching out. On the other side, Yulrax felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He looked at the door, his heart pounding. He could feel the human's presence, a pressure on his very soul. The doors slid open, and Hayes stepped inside, his face calm, his stance relaxed. He looked at Yulrax, his eyes filled with understanding. Yulrax's voice was hollow. How are you doing this? Hayes took a step closer. It's not about what we're doing. It's about what you can't do. You can't touch us because you don't understand us. Your weapons, your technology, they're all based on fear and destruction. But we're beyond that. Yulrax's face contorted with rage. Lies. No creature is beyond fear. Hayes's gaze softened. We were. Once. But we learned. We evolved, not physically, but in spirit. Your weapons can't touch us because we're not bound by your reality. We exist on a frequency you can't harm. Yulrax stumbled back, his mind reeling. Frequency? What are you talking about? Hayes looked at him with pity. Your people have conquered worlds with violence and fear. But we've mastered something greater, hope. Love. Unity. Emotions that resonate on a plane your weapons can't reach. Yulrax shook his head. No. That's impossible. Emotions are weaknesses. Hayes's expression grew firm. That's why you'll lose. Because you see compassion as weakness. But it's the strongest force in the universe. The room trembled, the walls humming with energy. Yulrax looked around in panic. What's happening? Hayes stepped closer. Your weapons are failing because they were designed to destroy. But we're not here to fight. We're here to end the cycle of violence. He extended his hand. It doesn't have to end this way. Surrender. Learn from us. There's another way to live. Yulrax stared at the hand, his pride battling his fear. He wanted to strike, to lash out, but his body wouldn't move. He was powerless before this human who defied all logic. Hayes's voice was gentle. You feel it, don't you? The fear fading. The hate dissolving. That's the power of understanding. Yulrax felt tears sting his eyes, emotions he hadn't felt in decades surfacing. He looked at Hayes, seeing not an enemy, but a being of impossible strength and compassion. He sank to his knees, his voice breaking. I surrender. Hayes placed a hand on his shoulder. Then it's over. The war ends here. The room's energy stabilized, the atmosphere softening. Hayes looked at his team, their faces filled with relief and hope. They had won. Not with weapons, but with humanity's greatest power. Silence filled the command chamber as Yulrax knelt before Hayes, his shoulders trembling. The alien leader, who once commanded legions and inspired fear across galaxies, now looked vulnerable, defeated not by force but by compassion. Hayes knelt beside him, his eyes gentle. It's not over for you. Surrendering doesn't mean losing everything. It means gaining a new path. Yulrax looked up, his golden eyes glistening with confusion. I don't understand. You had every reason to destroy me. To avenge your people. Why show mercy? Hayes's gaze was unwavering. Because revenge only continues the cycle of pain. We came to end it, not perpetuate it. Behind them, the massive screens in the command room flickered to life, showing live feeds from across Earth. Alien soldiers stood still, their weapons lowered as humans approached them, unarmed and peaceful. In cities once ravaged by battle, civilians emerged from hiding, their faces showing hope instead of fear. Elena stepped forward, her voice soft. They're laying down their arms. The invasion is over. Yulrax's lips trembled. My soldiers, they're surrendering? Hayes nodded. They're following your example. You are their leader, and they trust you. A tear escaped Yulrax's eye, his voice breaking. I never thought mercy could be so powerful. Hayes helped him to his feet. That's the strength of unity. When enemies choose to understand each other, the need for war disappears. As they stood together, the room's energy shifted, growing warmer, more alive. The once cold and mechanical fortress seemed to breathe, the walls humming with newfound hope. Suddenly, the doors burst open, and Vectal stormed in, his face twisted with fury. No! This is a trick. A human deception. His weapon was charged, aimed directly at Hayes. You've poisoned our commander's mind. Yulrax stepped between them, his arms spread protectively. Vectal, stop. It's over. We've lost. Vectal's eyes burned with anger. No. We are warriors. We conquer or die. He aimed at Hayes, his finger tightening on the trigger. Before anyone could react, Elena moved, her body a blur of speed. She stood between Hayes and Vectal, her hands raised. Don't do this. We don't want to fight you. Vectal's weapon shook, his rage wavering. You could have killed me a dozen times today. Why didn't you? Elena's voice was steady. Because we're not your enemies. We're just people, like you. Trying to protect our home. Vectal's weapon lowered, his face contorted with internal struggle. He looked at his commander, then back at the humans who stood before him, unarmed yet unafraid. His shoulders sagged, the fight draining from his body. I don't understand this. Any of it. Hayes stepped forward, his voice calm. You don't have to understand it all at once. Just take the first step, toward peace. Vectal's weapon fell from his hands, clattering on the floor. He sank to his knees, his head bowed. I've never known peace. Only war. Hayes placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let us show you. In that moment, a bright light filled the room, radiating from the humans. It wasn't blinding but warm, enveloping everyone present. It pulsed with a rhythm, a harmony that resonated deep within every soul. Yulrax gasped. What is this power? Hayes smiled. It's not power. It's unity. Connection. The bond between all living beings. The light spread, flowing through the corridors, touching every alien soldier. Their weapons fell as they felt its warmth, their hatred and fear melting away. Across the city, the invading forces stopped fighting, their eyes wide with wonder. On the command screens, the world watched as enemies embraced, old wounds healing before their eyes. Nations that once stood divided now stood together, united by a hope that transcended language, culture, and species. Yulrax looked at his hands, the light dancing across his scales. This is what you humans fight with? Hayes's voice was soft. We don't fight with it. We live by it. Love, hope, forgiveness. These are the forces that truly change worlds. Tears streamed down Yulrax's face, his body trembling. I've led my people into darkness for so long. Can they ever forgive me? Hayes looked at him with compassion. Forgiveness is a journey. But it starts with one step, accepting that the past doesn't have to define the future. Yulrax's shoulders straightened, the weight of his guilt easing. Then, I will lead them into the light. I will end this war. Hayes smiled. Together, we can rebuild. Not just Earth, but your world too. Peace isn't just the end of conflict. It's the beginning of understanding. The light continued to flow, connecting every heart, every mind. It transcended species, reaching deep into the fabric of existence itself. The universe seemed to sing, a harmony that echoed across galaxies. In that moment, humans and aliens stood together, united not by power, but by hope. The invasion was over, but a new journey had just begun, the journey toward unity. The light faded, leaving behind a warmth that lingered in every soul. Silence filled the command chamber, a profound stillness as enemies turned allies stood together, bound by a shared hope. Hayes looked at Yulrax, the alien leader whose decision to surrender had saved countless lives. Your choice changed everything. But the journey's not over. We need to make peace last. Yulrax nodded solemnly. My people are lost. Raised as warriors, they know nothing but conquest. They will need guidance, and forgiveness. Hayes placed a firm hand on his shoulder. We'll help them. But first, we need to reach the leaders of Earth. They need to hear the truth from you. Yulrax's face darkened with guilt. Will they even listen? After all I've done? Elena stepped forward, her voice gentle. They'll listen because you chose peace. It won't be easy, but it's the only way forward. A voice crackled through the comms, interrupting the moment. General Hayes, the alien forces are standing down. But, we've got a problem. Hayes activated his wrist communicator. Report. The orbital fleet, it's not responding to the ceasefire. They're preparing to fire on Earth cities. Yulrax's eyes widened in horror. No. The High Command, they're overriding my authority. Vectal looked up, his face stricken. They would rather destroy this world than admit defeat. Hayes's jaw tightened. We need to stop them. Can we contact the fleet? Yulrax shook his head. They've locked communications. But, there's one way. The command nexus. It controls the fleet's targeting systems. If we can reach it, we can shut down the attack. Elena's eyes narrowed. Where is it? Yulrax's voice was grim. Deep within this fortress. But it's guarded by the Honor Guard, the most loyal and deadly warriors of my empire. They won't stand down. Hayes glanced at his team, determination burning in his eyes. Then we fight our way through. We've come too far to let this end in destruction. Yulrax hesitated. They are my people, my warriors. Hayes looked at him firmly. Then help us save them. Show them there's another way. Vectal rose to his feet, his face hardened with resolve. I will lead you. I know the paths they guard. But, if it comes to a fight, they won't show mercy. Hayes nodded. Then we give them a choice. Surrender or stand aside. We don't kill unless we have no other option. Yulrax's eyes softened. You spare even your enemies. I never understood that about humans. Until now. Hayes's voice was steady. Mercy is our greatest weapon. It changes hearts. They moved swiftly, navigating the labyrinthine corridors of the alien fortress. Alarms blared, and the walls pulsed with crimson light as the invaders' security systems activated. Elena led the way, her agility unmatched as she disabled traps and bypassed defenses. Vectal guided them through hidden passages, his knowledge saving them from countless ambushes. But as they approached the command nexus, the air grew colder, charged with an ominous energy. The honor guard awaited them, their armor gleaming with ancient symbols, their weapons humming with deadly power. Their leader stepped forward, his voice echoing through the hall. "Yulrax, you betrayed us. Allying with the enemy is the highest dishonor." Yulrax's face was resolute. "No, continuing this war would be the true dishonor. I led us into darkness. I intend to lead us out." The honor guard's eyes burned with fury. "We serve the Empire. Our loyalty is absolute." Vectal stepped beside Yulrax. "The Empire is more than conquest. It's our people, and they deserve peace." The honor guard hesitated, their resolve wavering. But their leader's face hardened. "You've been poisoned by weakness. I will restore our honor, by ending yours." He charged, his weapon slicing through the air with deadly precision. The battle erupted, swift and brutal. Hayes moved with calculated skill, his training guiding his every motion. He deflected attacks with precise counters, refusing to strike lethal blows. "Stand down. We don't want to hurt you." But the honor guard fought fiercely, their loyalty unbreakable. Elena's speed kept her one step ahead, her movements fluid as she disarmed opponents without killing them. Vectal faced former comrades, his heart heavy. "I don't want to fight you, but I will if it means saving our people." The honor guard leader roared, his fury driving him to attack Yulrax directly. "You were our commander, now you are nothing." Yulrax stood his ground, his voice unwavering. "I was blind, but now I see. We don't have to be conquerors. We can be more." The leader's blade struck, but Yulrax deflected it with his own, the clash echoing through the hall. "Your strength is admirable, but your heart is closed." Their duel was fierce, a clash of power and will. But Yulrax fought differently now, with purpose, not pride. He disarmed his opponent, his blade poised but unmoving. "I won't kill you. I won't repeat the cycle of hate." The honor guard leader's eyes widened, his weapon falling from his hand. "Mercy, even now?" Yulrax nodded. "Yes. Because I was wrong, and I want to be better." The leader dropped to his knees, his head bowed. "I was ready to die. But you spared me." Yulrax's voice softened. "Live, and help me change our empire. We can honor our past without destroying our future." The other guards followed, their weapons clattering to the floor as they knelt before Yulrax. Hayes stepped forward. "It's not over yet. We need to reach the command nexus before the fleet fires." Vectal led the way, the honor guard joining them as allies. They reached the nexus chamber, its core pulsating with energy. Yulrax approached the control panel, his hands trembling. "The fleet, it's locked on every major city. If they fire, Earth will burn." Hayes stood beside him. "Then stop it. Show your people that strength is protecting life, not ending it." Yulrax's eyes filled with determination. His hands danced across the controls, overriding commands, redirecting power. The screens flickered, the targeting systems disengaging. The fleet powered down, its weapons silenced. Earth was saved. A collective sigh of relief filled the chamber. Elena smiled, tears of joy in her eyes. Vectal lowered his head, his loyalty to peace reaffirmed. Yulrax turned to Hayes. "It's done. The war is over." Hayes smiled. "No, it's just the beginning. Now, we build a new future. Together." But deep within the nexus, a shadow moved. A hidden figure watched, their eyes burning with rage. A whisper echoed through the darkness. "This isn't the end, it's just the beginning of vengeance." The atmosphere inside the command nexus was heavy with the weight of victory and the lingering tension of war. Relief swept over the team as the alien fleet powered down, its deadly weapons silenced. Hayes clapped Yulrax on the back. "You did it. You saved Earth." Yulrax's expression remained solemn. "I did what was right, but there are those who will see it as betrayal." Vectal's eyes narrowed, his instincts prickling with unease. "We're not safe yet. I feel a presence." The room grew colder, an unnatural chill that made the hairs on Elena's neck stand on end. "What is that?" she whispered, her voice echoing softly. From the shadows, a figure emerged. Tall and imposing, his armor gleamed with a dark energy, ancient symbols pulsating with crimson light. His eyes glowed with hatred, his face twisted with malice. Yulrax's breath caught in his throat. "No, it can't be. Grand Inquisitor Zalvar." Zalvar's voice was cold, dripping with contempt. "Yulrax, you weak, pathetic fool. You were our greatest warrior, yet you chose peace." He spat the last word as if it were poison. Yulrax's stance wavered. "I chose a future without bloodshed. The cycle of hate must end." Zalvar's laughter was hollow, echoing through the chamber. "You've grown soft. Our empire was built on conquest, on power. You've disgraced everything we stand for." Hayes stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "The war is over. Stand down, Zalvar." Zalvar's gaze shifted, his eyes narrowing as he sized up the human. "Ah, the hero of Earth. I've heard of you, General Hayes. You defy death itself, refuse to surrender, admirable. But futile." Vectal's fists tightened. "You're the one who fueled this war. You spread the lies, turned us into monsters." Zalvar's smile was chilling. "Monsters? No. I made us gods. But you, all of you, are nothing but traitors." His hands rose, dark energy swirling around him as the air crackled with power. "I will not allow this weakness to corrupt our empire." He unleashed a wave of force that slammed into them, sending Hayes and Elena crashing into the walls. Vectal shielded Yulrax, his body absorbing the brunt of the attack. Elena struggled to her feet, pain shooting through her side. What is that power?" Yulrax's face was pale. "Ancient sorcery, forbidden magic from the old wars. Zalvar must have found the relics, the artifacts of domination." Hayes gritted his teeth. "Magic or not, he's going down." Zalvar's eyes gleamed with madness. "You dare challenge me? I will crush your rebellion and raise this planet to ashes." He raised his hand, the Nexus core responding to his command. The room trembled as the orbital fleet reactivated, targeting Earth once more. Hayes's eyes widened. "No, we shut it down." Zalvar sneered. "You stopped the weapons, but I control the fleet." Yulrax stepped forward, his voice defiant. "Not if I stop you." He lunged, his blade blazing with energy as he clashed with Zalvar. The Inquisitor countered effortlessly, his power overwhelming. "You are weak, Yulrax. Your compassion makes you fragile." Yulrax's eyes burned with resolve. "Compassion is not weakness. It is strength." Their duel was fierce, each strike echoing with raw power. But Zalvar was faster, his dark magic granting him unnatural speed. He struck Yulrax down, sending him sprawling. Vectal charged, his fists glowing with energy. "You betrayed our people, Zalvar." Zalvar's laughter was cruel. "I enlightened them." He blasted Vectal with a wave of darkness, his body crumpling against the wall. Hayes rushed in, his movements precise, tactical. He targeted Zalvar's joints, exploiting his overconfidence. But the Inquisitor's magic shielded him, deflecting every blow. Zalvar's eyes gleamed with sadistic delight. Foolish human. You cannot touch me. Hayes growled, his voice cold. I don't need to. I just need to distract you. Zalvar's eyes flicked in confusion. What? Elena appeared behind him, her stealth and agility unmatched. She plunged an energy disruptor into his back, the device sparking as it overloaded his shield. Zalvar screamed in rage, the dark aura flickering. You, insects! Yulrax rose to his feet, his face set with determination. This ends now. He charged, his blade igniting with pure light as he struck Zalvar's chest. The Inquisitor staggered, dark energy seeping from his wound. No. I am invincible. I am. His form shimmered, the ancient magic faltering. With a final scream, he collapsed, his body disintegrating into shadows. The room fell silent, the air clearing as the darkness faded. The Nexus core powered down, the fleet deactivating once more. Hayes let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Is it over? Yulrax's shoulders slumped, exhaustion evident. Yes, the darkness is gone. Vectal stood shakily, his voice solemn. But the scars remain. Our people, they need healing. Elena smiled softly. We'll help. Together. Yulrax looked at Hayes, gratitude in his eyes. You showed me a better way. I will honor it. Hayes's face softened. The road to peace is long, but it's worth walking. As they stood together, allies bound by sacrifice and hope, a glimmer of light shone from the Nexus core. It pulsed gently, a symbol of renewal. But unseen, a shadow slithered away, whispering through the walls. In the darkness, vengeance waited, patient and hungry. The aftermath of the battle hung heavy over the command Nexus. Despite their victory, an unease lingered. The air felt colder, the shadows deeper. Hayes stood at the panoramic window, watching the alien fleet drift aimlessly in orbit. We stopped the attack, but something doesn't feel right. Elena approached, her eyes scanning the room. You feel it too? It's like, something's watching us. Vectal nodded, his senses on high alert. Zalvar's power, it was more than just magic. It was alive. Yulrax's face darkened. His hatred was ancient, fed by the artifacts of domination. They corrupt the soul. Hayes's gaze hardened. Then we destroy them. Every last one. Before Yulrax could respond, the lights flickered. A low hum vibrated through the floor, growing in intensity. Elena's hand went to her weapon. What now? The Nexus core in the center of the room began to pulse with a sickly red glow. Shadows danced around it, forming shapes, twisted faces, whispering mouths. Vectal's eyes widened. Those are souls. Trapped souls. A voice echoed from the core, chilling and familiar. You thought you could destroy me? The temperature dropped, frost spreading across the walls. Zalvar's figure materialized within the core, his face contorted with malice. I am eternal. As long as hatred exists. I will never die. Hayes gritted his teeth. We ended you. You're nothing but a ghost. Zalvar's laughter was hollow, echoing through the chamber. A ghost? No. I am vengeance incarnate. The shadows grew, swirling around him. You cannot destroy what is already dead. Yulrax's fists tightened. You are a curse upon our people, Zalvar. It ends here. Zalvar's eyes gleamed. Foolish traitor. You think you understand power? He raised his hand, the shadows responding to his command. They lashed out, striking Vectal and Elena, pinning them to the walls. Hayes's heart raced. Let them go. He fired his weapon, but the energy bolts dissolved into the darkness. Zalvar's form shimmered, his face twisting into a sneer. Pathetic human technology. You are weak, just like your world. The shadows moved towards Hayes, but Yulrak stepped between them, his blade igniting with radiant light. I will not allow you to harm them. The shadows recoiled, hissing as the light burned them. Zalvar's eyes narrowed. That power, impossible. Only the Ancient Ones wielded such light. Yulrak's expression was fierce. You used their relics to destroy. But they were meant to protect. He advanced, his light growing brighter. Your darkness cannot stand against hope. Zalvar screamed, the shadows around him writhing. Hope is weakness. Hate is strength. The room shook, the core pulsating wildly. Elena gasped, struggling against the shadowy binds. He's feeding on the nexus, he's becoming stronger. Vectal roared, his muscles straining as he broke free, his energy surging. Not if I can help it. He unleashed a shockwave, disrupting the shadows long enough to free Elena. Hayes' eyes met Yulrak's. If he's tied to the core, we destroy it. But how? Yulrak's face was resolute. The light of the Ancient Ones, it can sever his connection. But it requires sacrifice. Hayes' jaw tightened. No more sacrifices. There's always another way. Zalvar's laughter echoed. You are fools. I will consume this world, and every world beyond. The shadows coiled around the core, merging with Zalvar's form as his body grew larger, more monstrous. His eyes burned with crimson fire. I am hate. I am darkness. I am God. The chamber quaked, debris falling as the Nexus struggled to contain his power. Elena looked at Yulrak, fear in her eyes. Can we really stop that? Yulrak's light flared, his voice unwavering. Hope is stronger than hate. But we must believe. Hayes nodded, his face set with determination. Then let's show him what hope can do. They stood together, their wills united. Yulrak's light enveloped them, forming a barrier against the shadows. The darkness hissed and recoiled, unable to penetrate their resolve. Zalvar's fury shook the room. You defy me? You are nothing. I am eternal. Hayes stepped forward, his voice steady. No. You're just a shadow, afraid of the light. He placed his hand on Yulrak's shoulder, his courage resonating through the light. Elena and Vectal did the same, their unity amplifying the radiance. Yulrak's eyes glowed with divine power. Your hate has no place here, Zalvar. Be gone. The light burst forth, a blinding wave that filled the chamber. The shadows screamed, writhing as they were engulfed. Zalvar's form disintegrated, his roar echoing as his essence was obliterated. The Nexus core shattered, its energy releasing in a cascade of light that washed over the fleet above, disabling their systems peacefully. Silence fell. The cold vanished, the darkness dissipated. The room was bathed in golden light, warm and pure. Yulrak staggered, his body flickering. Hayes caught him, worry tightening his face. Yulrak. Stay with us. Yulrak's form began to fade, his essence glowing softly. The light, it was not mine to keep. It returns to the ancients, to restore balance. Elena's eyes filled with tears. No, you can't go. We need you. Yulrak smiled, his expression peaceful. You have each other, and hope. My purpose is fulfilled. Vectal bowed his head, his voice heavy. You are a warrior, and a brother. Yulrak's form shimmered, his light lifting towards the heavens. Live well, protect this peace. And remember, love is stronger than hate. His light ascended, merging with the stars. The room dimmed, the warmth lingering. Hayes' fists clenched, his voice breaking. Goodbye, my friend." They stood in silence, the weight of his sacrifice settling in. Elena wiped her tears. "He saved us all, with hope." Vektal placed his hand on Hayes's shoulder. "We honor him, by protecting what he fought for." Hayes looked at the stars, his heart heavy but resolute. "Then we'll carry on, as guardians of hope." As they walked out of the Nexus, the dawn broke over the horizon, light chasing away the shadows. But in the depths of space, a whisper lingered, a promise of revenge. The cycle was not yet broken.